The longer a man is without a relationship, the more he's this. We're going to dive into this topic today. I want to be candid with you. I saw this title in the YouTube universe, so I thought I'd do my own version of this. The longer a man or woman is without a relationship, this might actually happen. See, it seems to me that codependent people go from one relationship to the next to the next. Well, why are we talking about codependent people? Because in the demographic that I speak to, which is midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement, a significant percentage of people in this age demographic is divorced. I roughly believe 75% of singles in the dating marketplace over 45 years old are divorced. And what I've noticed with a lot of divorced people, particularly men who happen to be codependent, they literally attach themselves to the next person they're in, that they meet or start dating. They just become attached to them. Or if men have an addictive personality, they not necessarily get attached to the next person, but they start an addictive behavior of dating one person to the next, to the next, to the next. But what about the person who's been single for a while? What's up with them? See, partnership-based relationships are on the decline. This is one of the reasons why casual relationships are becoming the norm. In fact, the rise of casual relationship for both men and women alike is because of what I'm about to share today. See, being single or in a casual relationship offers freedom and independence. However, as time passes, and whether you're in a casual relationship or not in a serious relationship, as time passes, people become rather set in their ways. But we're going to talk about why they become set in their ways. And this isn't necessarily a negative thing, but profoundly shapes the habits, perspectives, and relationships they might have in the future. Let me repeat that. Being set in your ways doesn't have to necessarily be a negative thing, but it's something to be aware of, because the longer a person goes without being in a serious relationship, or even those people that find themselves in casual relationships, find themselves getting, well, I was about to use the word stuck, but that would be a negative, find themselves in these circumstances. Now, why am I talking about casual relationships in the same breath as single people being single? Is because, as I said, partnership-based relationships are actually on a decline for the reasons I'm about to share. And this is why many people find themselves in casual relationships. Actually, let's even backtrack a little bit. Let's rewind from casual relationships. Find themselves in hookups, friends with benefits, or situationships. But I am going to talk about casual relationships for a moment, because I do believe that we are seeing this epidemic for a reason. Okay. Now, when we look at what happens with somebody who's been not in a relationship for a very long time, or have had a series of casual relationships or a series of dating experiences, see, when a person is solo by themselves, they become very comfortable in the routine they're in. They become very comfortable in the routine they're in. By the way, as I'm saying I mean a man or a woman. I know everything I'm about to share in this video can be equally true for women as well. They become very comfortable in their routine. See, single people have a lifestyle that revolves around their personal preferences, whether it's from eating to sleeping, whether someone is a foodie or someone likes a $6 burger at night, or somebody is a night owl and somebody is a morning person, just to name a few. We all have our personal preferences. Maybe we like to put our forks up. Well, I'm a forks down in the dishwasher, but some people believe forks up is better. By the way, I'm going to tell you, forks down is better because the water shoots from the bottom, but that's my own personal preference. But we all have our preferences that we become accustomed to. We become accustomed to our routines. And so this is a challenge for a lot of people to dive into a more serious relationship. It's one of the reasons why they choose casual relationships. And let me differentiate one other factor in a casual relationship is that they oftentimes are living in their own home. They're not sharing a home with someone. A serious relationship, a partnership-based relationship, a marriage is usually a serious relationship is either people living together usually, or they are married. Now, that's not to say a person can't be in a serious relationship and live in two separate homes. That's not where I'm differentiating. A serious relationship is people who choose a teamwork based relationship that leads into an eventual partnership based relationship or an all in relationship. Okay. But the challenge for many singles who have been without a relationship for a long time or people in casual relationship is they become comfortable in their own routine. Now, one of the second reasons why people get set in their ways is they develop strong opinions. They develop strong opinions. See, a single person or a person in a casual relationship oftentimes very strong views about life, relationships, social dynamics. And as I said before, whether it's their preferences on eating or their preferences on sleeping, they all have strong opinions about relationships. They have strong opinions about relationships. And so it's one of the reasons why serious relationships aren't being formed, because people can become rather rigid in their opinions. At least here in the United States, we have a population that happens one half of the country seems to be right. Is that right? And one half of the country seems to be left. I'm just doing it for the camera here. I hope I'm doing it. Well, actually, this would be left for me and this would be right for me. And people's ideologies, their opinions in certain areas of their life can be very strong, very opinionated, actually very rigid. And so the challenge for those to move into something serious is that we have to push past our rigidity, because relationships come with it a certain need to, I'm going to use the word compromise. And compromise is a trade-off in some areas, but it's also being able to agree to disagree, that not one size doesn't fit all. And yet many people who have been without a relationship for a long time are set in their ways, or those casual relationships can be set in their ways. Okay. All right. Number 3, they grow more independent. They grow more independent. From handling your finances to household chores to, what you desire in life, a lot of people get very set in their ways and they're very independent. In fact, they have a resistance to actually partnering from a financial perspective with people. Now, I do believe, again, differentiating those casual relationships and people who are not in a relationship, those people that are single. The reason, again, why I added the casual relationship to this conversation is because many of the things that people are set in their ways even find themselves in this space, even when they're in a casual relationship. And in casual relationships, people very rarely blend their finances together. They very rarely look at a relationship from that vantage point of teamwork or partnership. And while casual relationships might have some elements of monogamy, might have some elements of exclusivity, at the end of the day, people are seeking their autonomy, their sovereignty over a teamwork, partnership-based relationship. And again, when people are in that state of pure sovereignty, oftentimes they are very set in their ways. And I'm sure that's pretty obvious. When you read this title of The Longer a Man is Without a Relationship, the more he's set in his ways. But people, whether it's a man or a woman, the longer a person is in a single or find themselves in a casual relationship where there is intent to be sovereignty, they become more set in their ways. Now, one of the things for single people, whether man or woman who's been without a relationship for a long time, they become more selective in the dating process. They become more selective in the dating process. Now, for some people, they might know their standards, but what I've observed, they adhere to their standard, and a standard isn't necessarily a high expectation. It's the framework of what they desire in a relationship is their standard. The framework they desire is their standard. The challenge is for people that have been without a relationship for a very long time is that they oftentimes become picky. They oftentimes become very picky, waiting for the perfect person instead of embracing the give or take nature of a relationship. See, a serious relationship, as I said earlier, requires some level of compromise, sometimes even a sacrifice. Now, again, you shouldn't have to sacrifice your sovereignty. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your boundaries, and you should never compromise or sacrifice a boundary. And I like the way Brené Brown talks about boundaries. Boundaries is simply what's okay and what's not okay for me. So you should never compromise or sacrifice a boundary, but relationships come with an inherent of adjustment because it's rare that two people are perfectly aligned for one another. This is why people are opting for casual relationships, because when a person doesn't want to compromise, they don't want to make sacrifices. And again, in healthy ways, it's recognizing that we have differences, whether they are single or in casual relationships, or they become very set in their ways. And this even turns people into picky people when it comes to the dating process. Hey, it's 11:11. Now, one of the things that happen when people find themselves in casual relationships or they are single for a very long time, they may struggle with emotional vulnerability. They may struggle for emotional vulnerability. See, people who choose casual relationships or people who choose to be single for a very long time, they oftentimes have difficulty opening up to another person. Whether they've been single for a long time or not, emotional connection is very difficult for a significant percentage of the population. That's right, being vulnerable can be very difficult for a significant percentage of the population. To open up to another human being can be a very scary thing. Let me repeat that. And that's true for people who even want partnership-based relationships. You know, especially since we have a population of people who have been wounded by past relationships, it's not uncommon that a vast majority of human beings struggle with emotional vulnerability. And sometimes people have difficulty even articulating their feelings and emotions. People that find themselves in casual relationships oftentimes don't go much deeper than the surface. And those who aren't in relationship are not even opening themselves up to vulnerability. And this is why they become very set in their ways. And lastly, and this is strictly for those people that are single for a very long time, they learn to enjoy the solitude. Many single people grow to love their alone time. Engaging in hobbies, personal projects, or even self-improvement, sometimes it's easier to do it by yourself than engaging with another person, because here's the thing about significant relationships: they come with emotional responsibility. That's right, they come with emotional and physical responsibility. And emotional responsibility, meaning caring for another person's feelings, can feel a bit overwhelming. And some people, or just even the time it takes to invest in a significant, serious relationship. And many people are opting for solitude. Or let me reframe that. When they find that they learn to enjoy their own company, they find that they may not want partnership-based relationships. So the reason why I wanted to shoot this video, and the reason why when I originally wrote the content for this, it was strictly for that single person, man or woman, who is single. But I added casual relationships to this conversation is because what happens is people get very set in their ways when they're in limited relationships. They want things just the way they want them. And there's nothing wrong with that for those people that want casual relationships. There's significant growth in the population of casual relationships versus serious relationships. And I talked about earlier, whether that's moving in together, whether that's getting married, whether it's teamwork-based relationships, whether it's all-in based relationships. Casual relationships are simply surface level relationships for two people to have some basic needs to be met. But they want these basic needs met on their terms versus in a partnership or collaborative type of fashion. And quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we have to observe that why people are choosing to remain single for a very long time is maybe they appreciate their autonomy, they appreciate their sovereignty. And the reason why people are choosing casual relationships is because they can have their sovereignty with a little bit of companionship, with a little bit of connection, and maybe even a little bit of sex. But it means that they're not either ready, willing, or capable. They either don't desire a all-in type of relationship, they're not capable for a all-in type relationship, or they don't have a vision for an all-in type relationship. And as I've observed lately, I've observed that the reason why this is on the rise is because, you know what? Sometimes it's better to have some connection than the pressure of an all-in connection. The reason why people are going their own way to some degree, become set in their ways, because partnership relationships require a fair amount of effort, a fair amount of work that a lot of people aren't capable of. And I've noticed that women are opting for these types of relationship at record numbers. Now, I want to differentiate between the woman who settles on a casual relationship versus that one that opts for a casual relationship. You see, if you're settling for something that you don't want, that means you're compromising a boundary, you're compromising a standard. And I'm here to encourage everyone to stand up for what they truly desire. But at the same time, the reason why so many women are opting for these types of relationships is because, you know what? Partnering with another person can be a scary thing. Partnering with being responsible for another person, going all in and saying, and what an all-in relationship means, I'm going to take care of you. That can be scary for a lot of people, particularly those that have gone through a significant divorce. Maybe it's for financial reasons. Maybe there's a variety of reasons why some people are opting for very casual relationships. Excuse me, versus teamwork-based relationship, all-in type relationships. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. Whether you're a man or woman watching this, the reason why what happens when a person goes a long time without a relationship is because they oftentimes become set in their ways. And when people opt for casual relationship, is because they want the benefits of companionship, connection, and physical intimacy without the pressure of that all-in type of relationship, that teamwork-based relationship. And that's why many people find themselves where they're at today. Again, if this is sinking in with you, if this resonated with you, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified. Is it this one? Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, where you can have direct access to me on a regular basis. There's links to follow me on Instagram to get my dating vows and to get all the books I recommend. And before I forget, I'm going to recommend my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. Link below to get a copy of my book. All right. Those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box. There's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question, then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's him in the Woody outfit with his brother, Colin, who was Buzz Lightyear. It's my son who passed away a God, it's coming close to 7 years. I can't believe it. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships for coaching as well. And there's a little dollar sign. Our goal today is $50. So I'd appreciate some love for the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. All right, our first question of the day. Oh, and if you want to join the hot seat or the love seat, excuse me, I just posted a link right there. All right, Annika's in the house. Can you explain the difference between being picky and having high standards when dating? One thing that comes to mind, I had one woman I worked with, and she said, Jonathan, I refuse to date a man under 6 foot tall. I refuse to date a man under 6 foot tall. I said, how tall are you? She goes, I'm 5'2". I said, really? And she goes, I go, why do you want to date a man 6'2"? And she goes, well, I feel protected when I'm with a tall man. I go, okay. I said, do you want to know something? I happen to be 6'2". And if you want to know the truth, I couldn't fight my way out of a paper bag. If some mugger came up, if we're in a crisis situation, I fold. And I'm 6'2". I'm not good at it. I've never been trained to deal with heavy-duty crisis situations or an actual physical protective need. I haven't been trained at it. I said, do you happen to know who Bruce Lee was? Martial artist, Jackie Chan, all these guys. Do you know the average Navy SEAL is 5'9.5", the average Navy SEAL. Bruce Lee, I think, was 5'7", 5'8". I think Jackie Chan was probably around the same height. These guys could kick the crap out of 20 guys all at once. See, height had nothing to do with that. But so I look at pickiness as creating a standard that might cause you to overlook, a really good person in your life, because what matters most, I think, the heart and not how tall a person is, as an example. I'm just using one example of what I think could be pickiness, is height. Certainly, I know I've talked about this in different videos. There's TikTok videos going on that a man has to be over 6 foot tall. He has to be making over 6 figures, and he has to have a penis more than 6 inches. These are a bunch of TikTok videos that went out. And very few men actually fit that category. I'm just using that as an example. So that's the way I describe pickiness. Now, standards might be the type of relationship you want. That might be your standard. In other words, you might want a relationship where you're spending 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in your personal and your professional life. To me, that's a standard. Okay. So many people can fit into that standard. Pickiness is when you set an arbitrary circumstance, and the bar is so high that nobody can achieve it. That's the way I differentiate the two. By the way, I want to give props right now to Debbie for the $20 super sticker for Connor. I appreciate your love, Debbie. Big hugs. Good to see you back. Also, Annika just gave us a $5 super sticker. Thank you for the love. What RN Lynn says, if you're shorter, you're closer to the attacker's nuts to punch them. There you go. Yeah, you see, I have a hard time being so tall. Not when I say so tall, I just mean tall. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Sabrina wrote down, I was literally pondering this the other day, how and when my boyfriend leaves, I have so much. So much time. Oh, got it. Okay, there it is. Time. Yeah, you know what? I think people are opting for casual relationships because many people seek the autonomy that one has their own time on their own, and they choose to spend time with someone else on a casual basis because they appreciate their sovereignty. They appreciate their solitude. They appreciate that time to themselves. Now, I know I was thinking back to John Gray when he first wrote the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, and men needed to have their cave, their garage time, their solitude time. It's hard to do that when you're enmeshed with another person. it's, you know, the thing is, depending on living circumstances, whether you live in a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment or home. Are there 1-bedroom homes out there? There might be. Certainly they were built in the 20s. But most homes are 2-bedroom, excuse me. But my point is, you know, we all need sovereignty. We need our time to ourselves. And a lot of challenges occur when you're in fully meshed relationships, creating alone time. I know a couple I worked with some years ago. It was a woman I worked with. I believe she was 64, 65 when I began working with her. She met Alan, who was a year or two older. They met on a dating app called Stitch, by the way. I just want to say that publicly. It's called Stitch. They got engaged 8 months later, got married within about 14 or 15 months of when they met. And they've been together now 7 years. I went to their wedding. And they carve out twice a week, 8 hours, where they are completely, like, one person leaves the home solid 8 hours. By the way, they're in their 70s now. One person leaves the home for a solid 8 hours, where one person gets the home to themselves and the other person's out of the home. And they reverse this. They do it, I think, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The point is, people are opting for this because now at midlife, partnership-based relationships are actually on the decline, sadly. And probably for very good reasons. In fact, I think even serious relationships are opting for what's called living together apart. If you haven't read the book by Ann Watson, it's a very short book, but you might want to check it out. It's called Living Together Apart. And people are opting for sovereign, you know, relationships where you have your autonomy and you have your own bills, you have your own, you know, like, because people are set in their ways, much like people that have gone out without a relationship or been single for a very long time. Okay, let's keep going here. Brown Canetta says, I am confused. I think dudes like hookups because they get needs met. I think women are scared because they got hurt. So scared and hurt are the same side of the coin. Your opinion? Well, I think why a lot of men are hooking up is because they want their sexual needs met. And now because of birth control and there's no need for marriage for sex, I think that's why men are opting for it. But I think a lot of men are opting, and women are opting, for casual relationships because they are set in their ways and they don't want the full responsibility of a all-in type relationship. Maybe somebody has health concerns and they don't want to either be a burden to someone else or they don't want to take on that responsibility. I know a lot of women say to me, I don't want to be a nurse and I don't want to be a purse. So this is what's happening. I think the hooking up, though, by the way, hooking up from one to the next and the next can be tiresome. This is why the question becomes, should we start? I mean, I'm inviting you to ask this question for yourself. Should you start just considering casual relationships instead of full-fledged partnership-based relationships? Because maybe they make more sense for those of us in midlife. It's just a question. I'm not saying as a statement of fact, but as a person who tends to promote partnership-based relationships, I'm just observing now that many women come to me for coaching. They're coming to me, they find themselves in casual relationships. They want more, but the person isn't capable of giving them more. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to opt for a casual relationship because I don't even know if I want a partnership-based relationship. A lot of women are coming to me for those reasons. And so that's why I wanted to dive into this conversation today. Brown Canetta, I hope I answered your question. By the way, if someone wants to join the love seat, I just posted a link right there. All right, Sarah's in the house. I have Parkinson's disease, but I still want a committed relationship. Please comment on my situation. Well, I think, again, depends on the type of committed relationship you want. But if you want an all-in relationship, then a man has to be able to accept where you're at with your medical condition. And to the degree of how, is it early stages or is it at more of an advanced stage at your life. But ultimately, the question becomes, will someone accept you for this? And so for an all-in relationship, I'm going to say a lot of people struggle with taking, by the way, again, coming back to that comment where I said earlier, where women come to me all day long, Jonathan, I don't want to be a nurse and I don't want to be a nurse. And so men don't want to be a banker and they don't want to be a doctor. That's a very common experience. First off, let me just give you a big hug regarding your Parkinson's disease. I've seen men who have benign tremors, and I've seen some men, at least men I've seen this with, have had the shakes and whatnot. It's certainly not a death sentence per se, but I would, and I don't know to the extent that it could affect your life long term, how, if medication is involved or whatnot. I'm just not familiar with that. But certainly you can want a fully committed relationship. Just remember, a lot of people are going to struggle wanting to take that on. And this is the reason why a lot of people remain single at midlife, is they don't want to take on that responsibility of what happens when you age. When I think of my mom and dad, who were married 66 years before my mother passed away, they had built so many years of trust with one another. It's more challenging to build trust as we age because we don't have the same timeline in front of us. And so unless two people fall deeply in love with each other, which I pray for that to happen, but a lot of people are blocked to love because they've been hurt in their past. Maybe they're struggling emotionally in their life. Maybe they have a health condition. Maybe they have maybe they lost a loved one. For a lot of people, it's difficult for them to open their hearts to love, to the place where they can accept someone fully. Now, there's always the exception to the rule, but this happens to be in our demographic, the over 50 demographic. We have a population of people who are hurting on the inside, mainly due to past relationship pains. And it makes it difficult to open your heart to love, let alone build enough trust with another person to take them on physically. Sarah, again, my heart goes out to you. I'm giving you a big hug. I'm just giving you an explanation. It's not an excuse, just my observation along that. And I hope it helped. And Debbie wants to give you a big hug as well. And so does RN Lynn. Coffee's in the house. Long distance dating with someone who's celibate for 10 years. We have an incoming first trip next month, but notice less texts and calls lately. I fear he might cancel the trip and fade out. I think he's a fearful avoidant. How do I address it? Get on a plane and go see him right now. First off, this is a very common tale. People bond with each other over the telephone. They build a fantasy type of a relationship together. But when it comes down to pulling the trigger, they start to pull away. How do you address this? I mean, if he's coming out next month, has an airline ticket been purchased? But I would say, why don't you offer to travel to him? If this is going to be your forever relationship, then you can get on a plane to visit him, ask him to cover the cost. But I would have a serious conversation with him and say, look, I feel that you're pulling away with less texts. Do you plan on, have you purchased your ticket to come out? I'd like to set these plans in motion. Otherwise, I'm going to move on from this experience. I'm going to repeat that. Otherwise, I'm going to move on from this experience. And if he doesn't set the date, and purchase the ticket, then I would disengage yourself, because most likely the two of you have engaged in a fantasy-based relationship. Or let me reframe that. I apologize. You've created a cyber relationship and not a real face-to-face. Have you even done FaceTime? You said text and calls. Have the two of you ever done FaceTime? I'd be curious about that, Coffee. Let me know. Gigi says, it irritates me that a man tries to give me his opinion when he has no subject matter knowledge or expertise just because he's a man. I think we're all entitled to our opinions. Listen, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. There's no certification. What I do, much of what I do is observational, and I have opinions based on observation. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. But I'm curious why it irritates you. That would be the more curious thing, is why it irritates you. I would want you to unpack that one for me in a comment, and let's talk about that. Joe Daisy says, I thought Stitch was a clothing site. No, it's not. There's a dating site. Debbie says, I've heard of it. Okay. Question, how can you go from casual to an all-in relationship when you put walls because you're afraid to get hurt? Well, it's certainly, by the way, if you have walls up, it means you're blocking the flow to love. There might be some real reasons why you have those walls up. I would certainly invest in doing a healing work around those walls. And by the way, some people have walls for legitimate reasons. Some people have been hurt from past relationships. Some people are grieving past relationship. Some people have health conditions that might cause them to have walls up. Some people might have financial concerns in their life. Maybe they have other reasons why they have walls up. Ultimately, though, I think for an all-in relationship to flourish, you need to be able to, like tear down those walls, Mr. Gorbachev, and a lot of people are struggling with that. That doesn't make them bad people. That doesn't make them, disingenuous. It doesn't make them, not worthy for love. It just means that we have a significant percentage of population who are hurting on the inside. And this is why I'm such a big proponent of personal development, self-help, spiritual work. I'm also a big proponent of psychedelic therapy. Many of you know I like to do my psychedelic trips because these open portals to tearing down the walls. Now, sometimes, opens portals to create more things to work on, at least for my experience. But I'm here to say that the only way a casual relationship is ever going to turn into all in is when you're investing in more teamwork with one another. You're investing in more teamwork one another. And a lot of people are afraid to do that because they don't want to burden the other person with the emotional pain that they're experiencing in their life right now. Rose, I hope that helps. Annika says, by the way, my nose is itching, excuse me. Aren't casual relationship people that are spenders? So I want to differentiate between, so those of you know my 3 types of people actively dating. This is not a fact, it's merely an opinion. There are users, spenders, and growers. Users are people like the love bombers, the players, the gold diggers, the entitled people. They're only in it for themselves. It's about 20% of the population. Then about 20% of the population are what I call grower builders. They seek long-term commitment. They're emotionally grown up. They have good relationship skills and have their act together. The spenders usually are people who seek companionship, connection, and sex, but they have no direction. They're uncertain, they're fearful, usually have a dysfunctional life. Now, within that bracket, this is something relatively new, and I haven't added it to this chart, but that's what Annika is referring to, is the people who have their act together, but they want to remain sovereign. In other words, they want this, and this is really the growth. This is the space between the person who's going to potentially waste your time because they have a dysfunctional life versus that person who's a grower builder. This is something new I have to add to my chart, is this new category of people who want to remain sovereign. They want that companionship, connection, and sex, but they want to remain sovereign. And those relationships can eventually turn into a grower-builder relationship, but a lot of people are opting for this type of relationship. They're opting for the casual relationships because they want that companionship, connection, and sex, but they want their autonomy. This is relatively new. I'm going to add it to my chart, Annika, but that's, I believe that hopefully answers your question. Okay. Gigi says, I want to hear what JA says. However, Parkinson's can be managed by focusing on you. It's a lot of effort, but it can be done. Look at Michael J. Fox. He's been sick for decades. Focus on you. The one thing about Michael J. Fox is I don't believe when he met his wife, he had Parkinson's. It's something that they navigated between the two of them. I think, again, I'm just here to say, and I agree with Gigi, focus on you, Sarah. That's the most important thing. But just recognize that there are people that will accept it, but there's just also a lot of people that won't be able to accept it, because it's hard to take on someone else's life when some people are just struggling to maintain their own life. That's just an observation I have. Okay. Thanks so much for that. Sabrina's in the house. Would you call it casual if you're monogamous and dedicated to each other? To me, dedicated to each other means teamwork and all in. So I don't know if you're monogamous and dedicated to each other. That to me sounds like a serious relationship. That's where I'm differentiating between serious relationship is you operate by teammates with one another. You're dedicated to one another. You're all in. That's the way if I'm understanding that correctly, that doesn't sound like a casual relationship. Oh, and even Joe Daisy says that sounds serious. Sarah wants to say thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, who wants to join me on the love seat? Come on, someone be brave. I'm going to be kind tonight, okay? Brown Canetta wants to tell Rose, get on a plane now. Jill wants to say being monogamous and dedicated speaks about sexual relationship, not living together, and how much time you spend together. Does that make it casual? What is this relation? Okay, let me read this again. Dedicated speaks about sexual relationship, not living together, and how much time you spend together. Does that make it? Well, to me, casual means you can kind of also come and go when you want. To some degree, that means, as you know, a serious relationship. Well, that's not true. Let me backtrack. Casual can be monogamous and exclusive, but they are not operating in teamwork fashion in their life, and they're not moving towards an all-in type of relationship. That's what a casual relationship is. Okay, that's the way that's my definition of casual. Okay. Sunny says, I'm 56 in the first relationship in 17 years. The peace and joy he brings me is greater than remaining in my comfort zone of singleness. There you go. Now, is it a teamwork-based relationship that's moving towards all in, or is it just companionship and connection and sex? Question about fearful avoidance. If they really push you away, is it just that pulling away from disinterest, or are they afraid of the relationship? Yes. Meaning it could be both. Some people are disinterested. Some people are fearful of relationships. Relationships come with it emotional and physical responsibility that some people's threshold for it might not be a full capacity. They might only have a very limited capacity to take on someone from an emotional perspective, or the time it takes to invest in a relationship. I don't think it has anything to do with them being avoidant. Anxious people can be this way too. Okay. When a person is in emotional distress, it doesn't matter whether they're an anxious or a fear or an avoidant. It just means that they're afraid. I hope that helps. Oh, Gigi comes back and says it is irritating because they get forceful that they have the right answer without understanding the facts. I make fact-based decisions and will not agree. Well, that sounds to me like a person who's being righteous in their opinion versus stating their opinion open to other people's opinion. People that can be righteous about their opinion, I can understand that they could be. But again, this is where a lot of people, the facts, by the way, I'm not in agreement that whatever facts we find on the internet are facts. I'm still not convinced that everything you ever read is a fact, okay? And I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it comes from, it's written from, some agency or something like that. I mean, a lot of people, just because it's written doesn't mean it's true, okay? Just my opinion on that. A lot of things out in the world today, they're finding that was once a fact isn't a fact. In fact, one time people used to think the old earth was flat. That was a fact. But later that turned out to be, or at least I believe it to be, untrue. Anyway, again, truth and facts. I'm not, but I understand, just want to point out, Gigi, I understand that people can be righteous in their opinions and they're so rigid in their opinions. That can be rather irritating. I would agree with that. Rose wants to thank me. I appreciate that. Joe Daisy says, I still have some mushrooms in the freezer. Way to go. Brown Kinemata, do men want to love women nowadays? I think a lot of people are afraid of love. A lot of people have been hurt by opening their heart to another person. I'm not surprised how many people have difficulty opening their heart to love. Do they want? Yeah, men want love, women want love, but a lot of people are hurting in that capacity. It's not an excuse. It's just the way I see it. I think having autonomy is important to keep while you're in a relationship with another, especially all in. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Otherwise, wouldn't it be enmeshment? I think a lot of people are enmeshed and they don't maintain sovereignty. Yes, I would agree. It's the difference between counterdependency, codependency, and interdependency. And a lot of people, partnering with another person is not for the faint of heart. I've talked to so many couples who are happily married couples who are struggling because there's almost too much enmeshment. They didn't, this is why nowadays living together apart is becoming the norm, because they're like two people have become so enmeshed in their lives that they have some autonomy, like they have the person that has, a couple hours a day to themselves. But sometimes people are so enmeshed in their lives, but why people are choosing living separately in the context of a serious relationship, because then they can maintain their sovereignty. This is just becoming more popular from what I've observed. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Hey, last chance to join the love seat. Bonnie's in the house. What are your thoughts on my boyfriend, 67, seeing old girlfriends a couple times a year as friends, dating for 13 months? I say no. He says yes. At an impasse. I think I should be invited. Well, this is that last statement struck me. So if I didn't read the last statement, listen, I have female friends in my life that I was once sexual with, who we've maintained a friendship over the years. I don't want permission to see people who are my friends, okay, from someone I'm in relationship. At the same time, I have no problem introducing some friend to someone I'm seeing. I have no problem with that concept or doing that. I believe if you're in relationship with someone and you have a former relationship with someone, you should be able to introduce them. But I don't think you have to bring them along when you want to connect with them. But I certainly believe that you should be able and willing to introduce them if they're a friend, if they're a genuine friend. No different if it was a male friend or a family member or whatever. So I hope I answered your question regarding that. But not that you have to be invited, but you should be able to meet them at some point. Okay. Joe Daisy wants to know if there'll be shroom dating. Maybe someday. Tata is in the house. How far into dating relationship can you see if the other person is a team player? Well, start acting like a team, inviting each other into each other's lives by introducing family and friends, about helping each other in your professional life, your personal life. It's not about seeing if they do that. It's about inviting it in as communication between the two of you. It's something you can co-create together, but I wouldn't wait to see it. I would invite it in, like start doing teamwork based things. Teamwork also includes opening up emotionally in your insecurities and fears. That's as an example of one aspect of teammate. It could be helping each other in your personal life. It could be helping each other in your professional life. That's how you start operating as a team, at least in my opinion. Rika's Homie Spice follow-up or FF answer to my question. Thank you, Jonathan, for answering earlier. He paid for tickets and hotels already. End goal together is for him to move to my country. We have FaceTime twice a day. Okay. Well, then if he's already bought the tickets, paid for tickets and hotel, then you just got to wait till he comes out. Oh, wait, there's a follow-up to this. Thank you, Jonathan, for as he paid for tickets. Okay, got it. Okay, I hope that answered your question. So keep us posted when he comes out, okay? My man friend said he has walls up. He started therapy, so I wait for him. Well, I'm not a big fan of waiting for someone, okay? Never wait for someone. You can accept someone where they're at, but they may never change. So if you're waiting for something to change, I would never wait for someone. You could certainly accept him where he's at. And by the way, if somebody is walled up, then you have every right to keep yourself out in the dating marketplace while they work on their stuff. I would never wait for someone, because that is an exercise in futility. But I would keep your options open. If someone says they have walls up and they're not capable of opening their heart, I would certainly keep my options open if you even want to continue spending time with them, Michelle. I hope that helps. And to answer your question, do you wait? You never wait for someone, okay? Sabrina says, I think you'll know when a guy isn't a team player because you'll have a moment where it will throw you off. They like wait. We are not on the same page. That's in response to the other question. Okay. Jess, my situationship dude has moved on with the girl he's been holding out for. Your thoughts on rapid rebound? My situationship dude has moved on with the girl he was holding out for. Well, who cares what he does? The question is, what are you going to do? Hopefully, you will move on, because he's already moved on. So, is he going to if he rebounds? It doesn't sound like you had a very solid relationship anyway. So, what do you want, Jess Buena Chica? What do you want? And does he fit what you want? That's the question I'd ask yourself. Is waiting the same as giving space? Well, waiting suggests an outcome desired, and giving space is just giving space. But if you're waiting for an outcome, that's not giving. You have to give a person space knowing that they may never come back. Waiting says, when are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? That's the difference in my mind. Okay. Sunny Pie, I hope that helps. Joe Daisy says, waiting is a game. Well, it's not a game. It's an expectation. And as a friend of mine, Guy Blue, says, expectation is the mother of disaster, and desperation is her twin sister. That's what waiting is an expectation. Okay. Oh, Karina says, hi, Sarah. I am dating with a number of chronic illnesses myself. For myself, I try to vet them to see if my condition is acceptable as it is. If not, they are not my guy. Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, for some people, the hard part is when you're meeting a stone cold stranger, it's hard to accept someone versus somebody you've built time with as a friend. And then that turns into something. That's kind of I think the dividing line is it's very difficult for a lot of people to accept someone's medical condition when it's a stone cold stranger versus somebody you've built some friendship with. This is why, you know, ideally, it's the hard part about dating today is most of the time we're meeting total strangers. It's very rare that we're meeting somebody who we actually have known for a while, then begin to date and get to know one another. That's one of the challenges I'm noticing today. Okay. Jess comes back and says, I'm currently avoiding distancing myself from him. I'm currently seeking therapy to fix my attachment style problem. I'm seeking someone consistent that actually likes me. There you go. It's great that you're doing some sort of personal development, self-help work on yourself. I think that's fantastic. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. This was the right before that. You said apparently he's in the same situation like the one he had with me, but he calls her girlfriend, only available to hook up. Again, focus on yourself, Jess. You let him. He's doing life on his own. He does his life. You do your life. Okay? That's my suggestion. Okay, Lulu's in the house. If he engaged in the conversation for about 3 hours through phone or texting from time to time, but he won't initiate all the time, should I leave him alone? Well, I mean, are you physically seeing each other on a regular basis? Do you live in the same town? Is this just a cyber connection? I mean, again, my rule of thumb, folks, okay? My rule of thumb is, first off, ideally date someone you could literally meet within a 3-week period of time. Ideally, somebody you can meet within a 3-week period of time from the first contact to the actual first meeting. My rule of thumb is you have a couple, 3 text message email exchange before it leads into 1 or 2. It's my 3-2-1-3 rule. 3 email exchanges should lead to 1 or 2 phone calls, and it should all happen in 3 weeks. Okay. In other words, meeting for a date. So you already said this is a cyber connection. Cyber connections rarely turn into anything, folks. Cyber connections rarely turn into anything. So again, if you can't meet somebody in a 3-week period of time, focus on somebody you can meet within a 3-week period of time. Okay. Don't over engage in a cyber connection and engage with if you're doing cyber connections, you might as well just do it with 10 people and then hope one of them actually wants to meet you. Would be, and I was exaggerating when I said 10. Okay. Allison says consistency is hot. And Joe Daisy wants to back that up. I agree. I'm in agreement with you there. All right. Last chance for anyone want to join the love seat. Hey, by the way, how about donating to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund? Oh, okay. Angela, I'm dating a guy from my church. He told me he wants to get married. He bought me all kinds of stuff. He's been taking care of me, but he's still friends with his ex-wife, and they share a dog together. I feel like the dog means more to him than I do. Well, I know a lot of, by the way, I know a lot of women, their pet is their surrogate boyfriend. I know, I've just observed that way too many times when dating. I mean, literally their pet is their surrogate boyfriend. You know, by the way, I am friendly with my ex-wife. I'm friendly with my ex-wife. I am friends with an ex girlfriend. And my last relationship, we've kind of moved our separate ways and we don't engage with one another. To be friendly with an ex is a good thing. It's actually good when somebody is friendly with an ex. Now, does that mean that they share, on the phone, all their personal problems and stuff like that? That might be crossing a boundary. Angela goes on to say he stays at her house while she went out of town for the dog. And I know a lot of people, their dog is like a child. So I know, matter of fact, my friend, one of my friends, she was in a relationship with a man. They broke up, but they had a dog and they took turns taking care of the dog together. And she had 2 more relationships after this person because they shared the dog, together. What it was he ended up taking care of she took the dog and he would take care of the dog when she was out of town. Pets can be the closest thing to family for a lot of people. So again, if he's treating you kind, caring, he buys you things, it sounds like he wants to take care of you, then there's something else missing in this relationship that you're not telling us. There's something else missing or you're hyper focusing on something that is really not that big of a deal. That could be the possibility. You're hyper focusing on something that isn't a big deal. But I know pets are like children for a lot of people. So anyway, Joe Daisy's, my German Shepherd came first. He was my boy. Pets are like our children. Yeah. Okay. Angela comes back and says, he feels like he wants to rush and get married soon, but want to wait. But he does. Are you two, by the way, Angela, are the 2 of you having sex? Answer me that question. Okay, Angela, answer me the question. How long have you 2 known each other? Have you 2 had sex? Okay, then I can answer better questions. Tatia's in the house. How do you date when you're a single mother? It's work, home, children, and hobbies. Sparingly. Oftentimes people that are single mothers don't have much time to date. Makes it difficult. You can. The question is, well, how do you date? You have to make time for dating. You have to make time for a relationship. If you don't make the time, then it's going to be difficult to date. So the question is, how do you date? You make the time to date. You put yourself out there to be seen by single eligible people. I know it's difficult when you're raising children, have work, home, hobbies, and that sort of thing, but you have to make the time. You have to make yourself available. Angela says, no, I'm waiting, but he doesn't want to wait. Well, that's the reason why he's pushing, because he wants sex with you. And you guys are most likely are following, biblical scripture to wait for sex. So I guess the question is, what do you want to do? Angela, what do you want to do? Maureen is in the house. I've been taking therapy for some time now, and I still don't feel ready for a relationship. Is there something wrong with me? No, Maureen, you are in the same camp with millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of other people who, I think the real journey in life is to begin a relationship with yourself, Maureen. Begin a relationship with yourself. That's really the journey of life. It's not about finding a life partner. It's about finding the life partner within yourself. Okay, I hope I felt moved by that. I hope you felt moved by that. Finding the life partner within yourself. Kathy, Canadians in the house. My ex with his first wife would have her look after her dogs when he would be traveling for work. I wasn't bothered by the knowledge of it all. There you go. Angela, we're going to wrap up with you. I want to make sure he's the right one, but really haven't heard God say that. But I do know I come back for a reason. Again, you are a church person. I would ask God for the answer, because God has all the answers. You just have to be able to hear it. And again, I believe in God, universe, spirit, and I just think our divine self is God, universe, spirit. So the answer resides within you. Something does feel off, most likely, Angela. And that's what I invite you to listen to. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's a link there to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on Instagram and get all the books I recommend listed below. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Debbie and Annika for donating tonight. I want to thank Joe Daisy. I want to thank Bonnie. Thank you for tonight. I've always learned a lot. I want to, let's see what else. Debbie says, have a great night, Jonathan. All love. Good episode by Brown Canetta. Thanks. This has been excellent, Jonathan. Thank you. Debbie says, great night. Thank you. Sun Pie, Angela, Carol, Vicky, Brown Canetta, RN Lynn, Carol, Kathy Canadian, Tatia, Joe Daisy, Sabrina, everyone who commented. Thanks a bunch. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.